Good evening and welcome to this class on voice training for public speaking. Let's start by chanting and meditating a little bit together. Let's just meditate briefly together, focusing at the spiritual eye, raising the energy, the love, the devotion, up to that point and out to the infinite. Om Shanti Shanti. Amen. So again, welcome to this class about voice training for public speaking. My name is Ramesha Nani. I live at Ananda village. I'm a professional musician, and along with my wife Bhagavati and another friend here, we direct the music ministry of Ananda, and it's been a great joy to do this for a number of years now. First of all, I would like to explain, in case you might be wondering, why do you need voice training for speaking? After all, you've been speaking all your life, and I think you know how to do it. So why would you need voice training? Well, when you start to do public speaking or teaching, like you are now doing, using your voice becomes more like running a marathon rather than having a nice stroll in the morning, which means that a little bit more might be needed in terms of vocal preparation for two important reasons. First of all, the first reason is more physiological. You might notice that, especially if you are not necessarily using your voice correctly, and we'll talk in a few minutes about what that means, but if you are not using your voice correctly, and you start using it a lot by giving public talks and classes, what could happen is that over time, you might not notice it, but over the years, the voice tends to deteriorate a little bit. It starts to shake, it starts to crack here and there. And imagine, I mean, the voice is composed of muscles. The vocal cords and the muscles around them are muscles. And so, like any other muscle in the body, it needs to be exercised, it needs to be kept in good shape. Most especially if you're planning to use it a lot, like you probably do when you give public talks and classes regularly. So, there might be some bad habits that a lot of people actually develop in speaking. I know every country has kind of their own. So I don't know about India, I don't know any of the Indian languages, unfortunately, but I know that, for example, here people tend to speak pushing their tone a lot lower, and they try to sound maybe more authoritative when they speak. But what that does is it pushes the tone in an area that is not the natural area for them to speak. And so over time, that develops a series, or could develop a series of problems that have to do with vocal fatigue. I don't know if you've ever experienced talking for a long time, and maybe the next day you have to talk again, and you realize that your voice is tired. You know, it's hard to explain the feeling, but it's a feeling of, you know, you just would like to stay silent, but your voice, because your voice doesn't really want to cooperate. So, physiological reasons for learning how to speak correctly. And we'll touch a little bit on these with a few exercises that will help you to do that better. But basically, it means to be able to create a sound that is absolutely full, absolutely resonant, and we'll talk about what that means, so that you can speak for extended periods of time without getting tired, and projecting a sound very far away from you so that you can reach people who might be sitting if you're in a large room, people who might be sitting very far from you, and they can still hear you. Now, mind you, that applies also to when you are speaking using a microphone, because it's true that the microphone amplifies the voice, but it's also true that you yourself still need to consciously speak and project your sound, because even just energetically, it makes a huge difference if you do that, or if you just speak for yourself and you just withdraw your energy and voice, just like here. Doesn't matter because I have a mic. You see, it's very different. So this brings us to the second reason for developing your voice and working on vocal training. The second reason is less physiological and has more to do with energy and consciousness. And this is especially important for meditation teachers. When you are up there and you are sharing the teachings, you are teaching people to meditate, you don't want to just be giving them instructions. You also want to share your vibration, your energy, your consciousness, because they might not remember every word you say, but they will definitely remember the feeling they got when they heard you speak. And if that was a feeling of peace, relaxation, openness, receptivity, they will definitely get a lot more out of your classes. And so, and this is what I wanted to talk about, which is how to make your voice sound in such a way that people will be benefited by just hearing a sound that is beautiful, full, and resonant. I don't know if you had the experience of listening to any of Swami Kriyananda's recordings, for example. His voice, even in his later years, was always really full and really resonant. Now, these two components of the sound of your voice is something that we want to talk about, because are, I feel, the most important qualities that you want to have in your voice. Why? Because there are two things that you want to convey when you are speaking, when you are giving public talks especially. One is confidence. You want to sound in such a way that people can get and understand that you know what you're talking about. It's not about ego, it's about you're there, you're a channel for very high teachings, and this inspiration that flows through you can flow even more strongly and can be understood and perceived even more strongly if the sound of your voice is strong and beautiful. If someone speaks with a teeny tiny little voice like this, I wonder if you would really take me seriously about what I was saying. So it's very important to develop this kind of sound, and we'll do an exercise in a little bit that will help us develop a sound like this. Okay? So fullness of sound conveys confidence. The second quality that is very important in your sound is roundness and resonance. What does that mean? Resonance is something that you develop by relaxing the throat and allowing your sound to not be just full, but also very smooth and have a beautiful tone around it. Again, if you listen to one of Swamiji's recordings, his voice, what always amazed me about his voice was that whether he was speaking or singing, his voice sounded always exactly the same, which is not usually the case. Often you hear a singer with a beautiful voice, and then you hear them speak, and you kind of wonder if it's even the same person because it sounds so different. But Swamiji was able to always have his throat, everything was so relaxed about him because he wasn't doing it. He said it so many times. It was always Master Yogananda through him speaking. And so his tone was always very round, very relaxed. And see, when you have a round, relaxed sound that you are projecting out, people feel that relaxation and they relax themselves. And so if someone is able to relax when you speak, what happens? They're more able to open their hearts and to be receptive. And what that means is that they will trust you. And this is very important as a speaker, to be able to convey trust to your audience. Because I don't know, I remember when I was teaching meditation in Lugano, Switzerland, which is where I'm from originally, sometimes I could see by people's faces that they were kind of checking me out, you know, what is this guy talking about? But when you start speaking, if you can convey a sense of trust, that feeling will disappear almost right away. And then you're able, when their hearts are open, then you're able to give in a way that they can receive. And so now think about this. It takes, I don't know, between 10, 15 minutes maybe into a talk or into a class for people to start to understand what you're saying and decide in their minds whether they can trust you or not, whether you're knowledgeable about what you're talking about or not. So it takes some time, but it takes a few seconds only for people to feel from the tone of your voice whether you are confident and you are trustworthy. And this is true also for everyday conversation. You know, if you're able to right away, for example, I know people here at Ananda, I'm not going to mention names, but I know, especially a couple of people come to mind who are in leadership positions and they run different departments of Ananda. And they are both very inspiring people. When they speak, they say beautiful things. However, they both have really bad voices. Like, it's really hard to hear sometimes, for me. Maybe I'm a little more sensitive because I'm a musician and I hear more than the average people, but it's hard for me to go past the sound of their voice, which is not that great, and just go to the core of what they're trying to say and realize that, no, okay, what they're saying is beautiful. But I always have to work a little hard to get past the sound of their voice. Now imagine if they were able to speak with a tone that was also beautiful and full and conveying all these qualities that we just talked about. I wouldn't have to work at all. I could just relax and receive. So you see, it's subtle, and some people might not understand why when they hear somebody speak, they feel a little unease about it. Because they don't understand maybe that it's the sound of the voice. But very, very often, and you can try for yourself, when we hear somebody speak, the very first thing that we hear is the voice. And if the voice is tense and shaky, it takes a few minutes into the talk to finally realize, oh no, this person knows what they're talking about. They know, they can be trusted because I can feel it. But it takes a few minutes. But the voice can convey that in just a few seconds if you train it properly to match the level of vibration that you're trying to convey with your words. So let's talk about the first of the two that we mentioned, which is fullness of sound. Fullness of sound happens, physiologically speaking, so imagine that these are the vocal cords. If you could see them, they look like two pieces of tape like this. So when we speak or sing, the vocal cords close together like this, and the air coming up like presses against them and makes them vibrate. Okay, this is how, in a nutshell, how vocal cords work. Now, there are specific muscles that push the vocal cords together and make them close completely so that when the air comes up and makes them vibrate, the sound that we hear is pure. For many people, for some reason, some acquired bad habits, sometimes the vocal cords don't close completely. So the air coming up manages to leak through the vocal cords. So the sound that you hear is not pure. And this is what you hear. So instead of hearing ah, you hear ah. And there are people who speak like this. You probably heard a few examples. It's a sound that you can still understand, it's there, but it's not full. There's air mixed with the sound. So this is something that can be fairly easily corrected. And I would like to suggest an exercise that we can do together right now to do this. So I will play a few notes here on the harmonium just to help what we're doing. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the vowel A, and I apologize, I don't really know how many vowels there are in Indian languages, but I assume there can be very many more than in English. So maybe we'll just work on these 5, and you can take this and modify it into your language. So what we're going to do, we're going to enunciate the vowel A, and we're going to then hold it for a few seconds like this. A, 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 and we're trying to almost exaggerate in how we enunciate the sound. So imagine that you have someone in front of you who doesn't speak English, and you're trying to you're really trying to tell them, okay, this is how you say it. And so enunciation is what helps the vocal cords close together completely to create a full sound. So let's try this together. We're going to 2 times, 2 short and then we're holding it like this. Let's do it together. And try to really don't be too very clear. Let's do it again. And when you hold it, try to hold it consistently with a full sound. Okay? And you can try different vowels. Let's try, for example, O. O, O, O. And you can do this exercise for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, and you can use all the vowels. In fact, I suggest you do use all the vowels, because you'll notice vowels are different. For example, if we do E, let's try it together. E sounds and feels very different. So E, E, E. So doing this regularly, like this, with a lot of intention in enunciating the vowel, will teach your muscles to close the vocal cords together and make your sound fuller. Now, I suggest you do this, and also the exercises that we'll do later. I suggest you do them regularly in order to train your voice to sound better, but most especially before you give a talk or a class as a warm-up. And I really recommend, if you are going to be speaking and teaching, I really recommend you start thinking of your voice as any other muscle. So what I mean is, if you go for a run, usually you warm up your legs, you do some stretching, you do something to prepare for what you're about to do. I suggest you do the same with your voice. Your voice is a tool that will serve you well over the years, but you have to take care of it. So do some of these exercises as warm-up, and these are your stretching and workout exercises for the voice, and just do a little bit before you start speaking. So this is my suggestion for your voice as public speakers. Okay, so this is one exercise. Do it with a lot of intention. These exercises can be done in a gazillion different ways, but it's only when you do it in the right way that it will really help you. So the right way is by enunciating A, E, whatever vowel, U, whatever vowel you decided to do it on. Enunciate very clearly and make this full sound. The sound is full, again, when there's no breath. If you hear ah, oh, that means that it's not quite there. So ah, oh, very, very full. Okay, so obviously I have no way of knowing whether you're doing it right or not. So I just trust you, and later I will give you some information for things that you can do to go deeper into this. But now I would like to talk a little bit about breathing. Now, as teachers, you obviously know and probably also teach about diaphragmatic breathing. However, what I noticed is that I used to assume that because I was teaching these things to yogis, I didn't need to talk about diaphragmatic breathing, but I was wrong. I realized that very few people use diaphragmatic breathing during everyday normal conversations. Like your voice, if you don't use diaphragmatic breathing and you breathe like this, you take a very shallow, high chest breath like this, what happens is two things. One, you create tension around here, which is very close to your vocal cords. Two, you don't give your voice good enough support. What does that mean? Well, if you know how the harmonium works, you know there's a bellow that pumps the air. Those of you who play harmonium know that if you don't pump well, the sound will not be very consistent. You know, there's like like this. And you know, when you learn to play harmonium, you learn to pump in such a way that whatever note you play, the sound is consistent and doesn't decrease in volume, it stays consistent. So the same is for the voice. In speaking, your bellow is your abdominal muscles down here. So what you are supposed to do, and I will show you in a second, what you're supposed to do is you should inhale, inflating your belly, letting your belly come out, and then when you speak, when you actually exhale, which is when you speak, you should create a certain resistance by pulling your belly in and allowing the sound to be, the sound of your voice to be sustained by your breath coming from down here and not from here. So I would like to stand and show you, and I hope you can see me. Maybe I turn this way. I hope you can see me okay. I would like to do with you a few diaphragmatic breathings together so that you can see what happens and you can do it yourselves. So I would like you to put one hand on your belly here and one hand on your chest. The reason for the hand on your chest is that we want to monitor the chest and make sure that it stays down, that it doesn't lift up like this, okay? So now we're going to take one inhalation through the nose, and as you inhale, inflate your belly and let it come out like this. Just like a balloon. And now we're going to exhale, doing the sound of the sound of S, or you can think at TS together. The important thing is that you close your tongue and teeth together to create a sound, to create a certain resistance to the breath. You should feel that you are pushing the air out by engaging these muscles here. Okay, so let's do a few together. Inhale through your nose and inflate your belly. And then and again inhale. And one more time. Okay, and make sure that your chest stays down. Okay, you can use these on your own. Remember that warming up your diaphragm and ab muscles is part of warming up your voice. They're part of your voice. So if you could do a few of these breathings, you will feel a lot more breath capacity that you can use for speaking. I can feel it right now, just having done 3, that my breath is freer and I can speak more comfortably. So now what you should do is combine this exercise with the one that we just did, so that when you do your you're actually sustaining the sound from your belly. So you are not breathing from here. So when you do it, take your time to inhale slowly through your nose and inflating your belly, letting your belly inflate and come out. And then when you do the sound, let it feel that you are engaging these muscles, and this area here stays down and relaxed. Now, it's not like you'll never use this for breathing, but I like to make sure that you start using your diaphragm more when you speak. So for now, we'll go to the extreme of not using this at all and just use the diaphragm. Okay, so these are 2 that you can easily combine together. Mind you, you can even practice this while you're driving your car. It's not like it takes, maybe don't go too deep in it, but it doesn't take too much time or a dedicated space or anything. So you can do this. Now, there's another component to the sound, which is, we talked about earlier, the fullness, and the other one is the resonance. Resonance is something that is not, you don't hear very much, at least here. For example, if I think of people who speak a lot, like for example, radio speakers. In this country, when you turn on the radio, you hear, in general, you hear voices that are very full, and they certainly express confidence. But they're rarely also round and resonant, which means that, to me, they don't necessarily convey trust. I listen to these people, they have full voices, but they're not particularly attractive to me. I don't necessarily feel that I want to sit down and listen to them. And unfortunately, those are the examples that most people follow, because they listen to the radio and they go, oh, these are professional speakers, that's how I should speak. And so this is why many people take on bad habits. And then when you start to work on your voice, you become aware that something more is needed than just a full sound, a piercing full sound. So let's work a little bit on resonance. Resonance is about relaxing, as I said earlier, relaxing the throat so that the sound is not like this, but it's more a sound like this, that is round and kind of velvet. You know, you can feel something cushy and cozy around you, and that's the sound that you want to have, because I just realized you will be leading people into meditation. So it takes a sound that they can hear, yes, but also a sound that is relaxing, a sound that is conducive to meditation, not a piercing, harsh sound. So let's practice a little bit roundness and how to create resonance in the sound. Okay, so resonance comes when we allow more the sound of your voice to go into the area of your face where all the sinuses are. The sinuses are used as sounding boards. Obviously, we have the chest, which is a big sounding board. In fact, if you put your hand on your chest while you're speaking, you can feel that there's a vibration happening. But also the face and what they call the mask, which is this area of the face, should be used as a sounding board. How do you do that? Well, we can practice a simple exercise together that will give you the experience of bringing more of this sound into this area. And it's very simple. We're just going to hum. We're going to hold a sound like this. Remember, inflate your belly. We're putting all together. Inflate your belly. Just humming like this. If you do it right, you should feel, and you should keep your lips relaxed, and you should feel your lips that are buzzing a little bit with the sound, and they kind of tickle. So that's a good thing. If that doesn't happen, it's probably because somewhere either your lips or your throat are tense. So relax. Even before you start the sound, relax consciously the throat and your lips. Feel that the sound is coming from your belly. And let's do it again together. Okay, let's do it one more time. So inhale, remember, take your time to inhale for now. Later, obviously when you speak, you don't have the time to breathe and take your sweet time to take an inhalation, but you'll learn that later. But for now, take your time, inhale, inflating your belly. Okay, so I suggest you do a little bit of this until you feel that your throat is relaxed, your lips are buzzing. So feel that it's just going. You should feel the sound vibrating more in your face. When that happens, and I suggest, you can do this even while you're walking down the street. Nobody will hear you. Especially in India, I know how noisy it is in the street, so you don't have to worry about sounding weird. You can just walk and try different notes. You can you can just have fun with it. But the point is bringing this resonance more here. Once you feel that you have that, then you can combine the two exercises, and you can start with humming and then open your mouth into a vowel like this. And see, the sound that then comes out is more a sound that is full, yes, but it's also round. It's not ma, it's ma, ah. It's not ah, and it's not it's ah. There's both. There's the fullness and there's the roundness. So these two components have to go together in order for you to have a sound that is what you want in order to convey what you need to convey. So let's practice this last exercise together. So we are going to inhale with your belly, and we're going to do a few of these so that you can be sure that you know what you're doing. So if you want, you can put your hands on your belly to make sure you are engaging it, and then inhale, inflate the belly, inhale through your nose, and then and when you break into the vowel, make sure that your throat stays relaxed. Excuse me, but at the same time, make sure that the sound is full. Don't let it but so you still want to have also the fullness. So that means no breath in the sound. Okay? So let's do it again together. Inhale. Feel relaxed in your throat. And now let's do maybe O. Inhale. And maybe let's do A. Inhale. Okay, and you can try with all the different vowels. Let's do E. I believe we haven't done. Oh, maybe we have, but let's do it. Notice that when I say it, it's never E, it's E. There's more roundness and openness in the throat. Your throat should always be a little open and expanded. Not because you force it open, but because it's relaxed. So it's not closing up and tensing, it's relaxing. So I suggest you practice, you wait on this last exercise and first practice just the fullness and just the roundness and just the breathing. And then put them all together when you feel ready. Because it might be hard to focus on all three at the same time. So I suggest you work separately. And you know your own voice. You know if you need more fullness or more roundness, or maybe you're not using your breathing correctly. So just, you know, like I say, I don't know, this is just a general advice. I would have to hear your voice to know what you need most. But these are good general guidelines. Now, one last thing I would like to talk about is how can you practice implementing these things into your speaking. So how you go from the exercises to the actual speaking. So one thing that you can do, and I have a little sheet here with something written on it, but you can open any book you have handy or anything, and you can so what we're going to do, you can practice reading something, but practice reading very slow and try to consciously make every syllable very full. So don't let any syllable slip by, because you know when we speak, normally we tend to speak maybe fast, and some things just don't get a lot of attention and a lot of sound. But what that translates into for you as a speaker, if you do that, you don't convey as much clarity as you could. You want every syllable of what you say to be full. Again, listen to Swamiji, listen to Master Paramhansa Yogananda. When I hear his voice, sometimes I have the feeling that his human vocal cords could barely withstand the power that was going through them, because there's so much sound and resonance. And you know, to us, he sounds a little hard to understand sometimes because of his Bengali accent, but everything he says is clear. There's never a moment when it's no, it's always very clear. So this is what I suggest you do. Sit in front of your book or whatever you have that you want to read. Take a conscious deep inhalation with your belly, and then read slowly, making sure that every syllable gets full attention, and you say every syllable with full sound and resonance, like this. So you inhale. Humility means seeing everything quite simply as it is. with none of the emotional overtones of wishing that it be anything more. A job done is simply a job done. It is the egotist who looks around for applause. So I'm reading something by Swamiji. It's the art of, what is it? Leadership? The art of, I don't remember the right title, but anyways, it's a little book by Swami. Anyway, you can pick anything, but read, making sure that every syllable is full. And you might need to read, you actually probably need to read a lot more slowly, just to develop the habit of having every syllable be really, really full. Okay, so I'll show you a little bit more. Humility was a quality of Abraham Lincoln. Accused in court by his opposing attorney of being two-faced, he replied wryly, "I leave it to the honorable jury. If I had two faces, would I be wearing this one?" So there you go. This is very important because you have no idea what a difference it makes when somebody is up there speaking and they don't mumble any syllable. Everything just goes very, very smooth. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm also a singer, and I sing in a small group of 4 people. And we often work on making every note very, very clear, every word very well enunciated, because what I realized is in order for people to understand the words, you have to exaggerate the pronunciation of the words. It's only when you exaggerate it that people in the audience understand them. Otherwise, some words are like, I don't know what they just said. So that's very interesting. If you don't exaggerate it and you just do it the normal way, some words slip by and people don't understand them. So you have to give time to consciously use your voice and also make your speaking really, really clear. So let's now recap a little bit about the things that you can do for your voice. And you know, this took a while to explain, but I assure you it just takes a few minutes every day, and it really, really makes a big difference. So first of all, we have breathing. I didn't talk about breathing at the very beginning because I wanted to start with the voice right away, but I suggest when you decide to do some exercise for your voice, start with breathing, because like I said, breathing is the motor of the sound. So if you have correct breathing, everything else is a lot easier to do. So do some conscious breathing exercises. Inhale, inflate your belly, exhale with tss, and push. Make sure that the belly is engaged as it moves back towards your spine. I forgot to mention, if you have a hard time feeling this movement, you can try this exercise laying on your back, and then it will be really, really easy to feel the movement of the belly moving up and down. So this is the first thing. Then do your exercise for fullness. So enunciate and make a really full sound, enunciating your vowel very clearly, making sure that it's stays full as you hold it, that it's not just at the beginning but the whole thing. And just doing this will train your muscles to close together and sustain a full sound. And then add the humming. So first hum only a few times just to bring the resonance more here. Until you feel the vibration of your voice all around here in your mouth, in your lips, and in your face. And then add the and you can do all the, in fact you should do all the different vowels. And always doing it with your belly. So sometimes stop what you're doing and put your attention on your diaphragm and your abdominal muscles. Make sure that they're engaged. Make sure that you are breathing from here when you take a breath and you're not going like this. And this is very important. I also suggest you think more of your belly during your everyday conversations, because it might be easier to control when you're talking to your friends or your spouse rather than when you're giving a public talk and you have a lot of other things going on. So like everything else that we're trying to learn and acquire, we need to put awareness and concentration on it. But it is a lot easier to do when the conversation is more relaxed and casual. So do that. Think about your belly when you take a breath. Think that you're breathing with your belly moving out and not inflating, lifting your shoulders and your chest. These are all things that might take a while to implement. Mind you, you've been using your voice in a certain way for as many years as you've been alive. And so now we're maybe trying to change a little bit the way you do something that you've been doing forever. And so it might take some time. And also I want to mention, because this will come up for many of you, you might feel that your new voice, that it doesn't sound real, it sounds fake. And this is because it might be very far from what you're used to doing. And don't worry about it, it's absolutely normal, but don't feel that, oh, it doesn't sound like me, so I won't do it. Because when you relax and get rid of all tension like we're trying to do, what is left is your real sound. This is the sound that you were supposed to have. And the one that you maybe have now is the fake sound, the one that you acquired by bad habits of tension, of who knows what. So I'm not saying that each one of you is using a fake sound. This is in general what happens. So just stick with it for a little longer. Do the exercise. It might take weeks, maybe even a few months, depending on where you're at. But don't give up. And remember, relaxing and letting go of tension cannot be bad. It can only be good for your voice. So even if you feel that your new sound is not quite what you expected, just bear with it. Just do it a little bit longer, and over time you'll get used to it. And I think that the people who hear you will also start to like it, and they might even comment on it. So just take your time to do it. The voice is also a great self-identification. I mean, it's probably after your ID is what people recognize from you as soon as you come into the room and start talking. They don't even need to look at you. They know it's you. So it might create some identity issues to want to to change your voice. But remember, you're not changing into something that it's not. You're changing into what your voice was supposed to be. No tension, nothing. What comes out is your true sound. And that's what you want to give to people when you teach meditation. You want to give a message that is pure, and you want to give it with a consciousness that is pure and untainted. And the sound of your voice can help to give that, because when your voice is free and it's really coming from your inner self, then it conveys something that is true and honest, and it's really who you are. So there's a lot more that can be talked about. This is just the basic guidelines that I wanted to give you, and it's so there are other things that some issues that we could cover, but they are more specific to different people. Some people have them, some people have not. If you practice these, I assure you, the sound of your voice will improve. You have to practice and put a lot of awareness to it, and just be patient with yourselves. You might forget totally about it the first time, the first next class you give, and that's fine. It just takes time. So do it, and don't fret about it. So I just wanted to give you a few some information about what you can do if you want to go deeper into this subject. And I believe that you should receive also an email after this class with this information, but I just want to cover it together. So first of all, you can there's a link that you will receive, and that link will take you to an area of my website, which is called vocalbliss.net, where you can download and watch videos, and you can get other information. And these are specifically videos for if you feel vocal fatigue that you want to get rid of. If you have been speaking for a while and you feel that your voice is tired, you can go and you can learn a few exercises. Some are the things that we already did together, but it has the advantage that it's guided and it's a video, so you can see it just like this, and you can do it anytime, and you can go there and watch those. And like I said, you can go to my website, vocalbliss.net, and you can find a lot of information about this. And you can also, if you feel that your voice needs special attention because it has had issues that you know of and you're aware of, there's also the possibility for you to work directly with me on Skype. I've been doing sessions on Skype to work with people, and to really, I can hear the voice and understand what is not working, and then give people the right exercises for their particular needs. And the last thing I want to mention is that we have a course called Conscious Communication on Online with Ananda. And you can get this course, and again, you'll receive the link to it. And there's also a coupon code that you will receive, so you can get a 50% discount on the course. The course is, again, videos of different, there's more than what we just did this morning, but where you can really develop your voice and keep it really, really healthy. So if you feel you want to know more, feel free to contact me using those links that you will receive in the email. And otherwise, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful experience teaching these wonderful teachings and using your voice in the best possible way so that you can be expressing the consciousness and the joy and the energy that you want, that you feel. You can convey it not only with your words, but only through the sound of your voice by being real channels. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I wish you all the best. Namaskar.